All right. Sorry about that. Some technical difficulties, but here we are. Hi, if this is your first time to the channel, welcome. My name is Bruce Clark, and I make videos at all things Southern California. What it's like to live here, work here, play here, own a home here, or investment properties. So appreciate you joining us. If this is your first time to the channel, welcome. We'd love you to subscribe to our channel, and certainly hit the bell for notifications. We can notify you next time we upload a new video on things like we're going to talk about tonight. We're going to talk about trust, probates, probate. We're going to talk about homesteading, all kinds of cool things. So appreciate you. Again, appreciate you joining us. Do us a favor, like the video, and interact with us. We'd love to answer questions. This is not intended to be legal, financial, accounting advice. We're not attorneys. We're not CPAs. We're not any of that. So certainly if you have any questions about the things we're going to talk about tonight, reach out to your trusted advisors. But from a real estate perspective, reach out to me. So reach out to us. We'd love to talk to you. So let's talk about first, let's talk about the week in real estate. Number of homes haven't increased. Prices, Barbara Corcoran from the Shark Tank thinks they're going to start stabilizing, maybe even start going up. We have some people on the flip side, and I have to admit, I'm falling in the camp that certainly local here in Irvine, Newport Beach, this area, we're probably going to experience more appreciation. Certainly after the past couple of years, that's a tough nut for some people to swallow. Interest rates have gone up. It looks like the Fed's going to slow down the rate of increase. They're seeing some things in inflation that I don't think we're seeing, certainly not in our local household, certainly household budget. Seems like everything's getting more expensive, but that's what we're seeing. So rate-wise, the rates look like they're going to hold pretty steady. I do think that they're going to raise again. The Fed's going to raise the Fed funds rate probably by the end of the year. So it's going to be interesting to see. But Congress looks like they came together on a quote unquote bipartisan deal on the debt ceiling. Going to raise it again. I think 79th time. Just can't stop spending. It's never a revenue issue. It's a spending issue. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do there. But let's first talk about trusts. Again, this is not legal, tax, financial advice. Consult with your local professionals. But trust exists so that people can shield assets and allow their beneficiaries to control those assets. And that's pretty much why people set trusts up. You can have a revocable trust, There's all kinds of different trusts. I'm not going to go into all of them, but I think those are the main two. And I'm not going to go into the differences between the two, but I do want to talk about trusts in general. We see a lot of people hold properties in trusts. And when you die, we all die, there's intestate and not intestate. You have a will. If you don't have a will, you die what's called intestate. And then it goes through probate. Probate is expensive. When one passes with probate, if you have a home, then you're talking legal. You get the courts involved. The home is sold differently. Certainly, it involves just the court system. It can be very expensive, and so we always recommend that people get attorneys recommend that you get a will. I'll leave it at that. But the difference, so if you die without a will, it's called intestate. Your home is then, your properties are sold via probate. But if you have a will, then the wishes of you, the creator of the will, are followed, or hopefully followed, in how the home is disposed. And we have a lot of experience in working with people with trusts. Probates are different, but again, you can have it that way. Now, a trust can also own LLCs, and that was a question someone had. And can a trust own an LLC? Yes, and it's not unusual for people to have multiple LLCs, which are controlled by the trust. Again, the trust has some tax benefits, some shielding of things, but it's really for how one wants properties disposed of. And so, can a trust own an LLC? Yes. Can multiple ways. Some people have multiple trusts and again, multiple LLCs. So that's one of the things that we see when dealing with these properties. Certainly, you want someone who knows what they're doing on the real estate side, certainly on the legal side, financial side. There's so many forms that go into buying and selling a home. We have certainly now in LA County, if one were to sell a home over 5 million, there's additional fees involved, additional taxes. So all of these things go into good estate planning. If you need a good estate planning firm or attorney, reach out to us. We have some wonderful people. We just referred some of our clients to some insurance agents that deal in also asset preservation and protection. It's really interesting. So right now in California, State Farm is not writing any more new policies, new homeowner policies. So unless you're with State Farm already, you're probably not going to be able to get insured. So there's a lot of others. And there's some that deal in asset preservation, asset protection. So they deal with umbrella policies, they deal with boats and of course cars and art, and all kinds of things. So reach out to us if you're looking for those people. Those are really two of the big things I wanted to touch on tonight were the trusts and the probate and why you don't want to go to probate. So a will is very important. There's also called homesteading. And in California, they've upped the homestead protection. The homestead protection also has to do with asset protection. So you can have trusts, you can have LLCs, and then another way to protect one's assets would be through homesteading. In 2021, there's a new bill passed in California that allows one to have further protection of one's assets. And so we always recommend our clients, this is something we always recommend, is file a homestead form, because you never know. It's not just from bankruptcy. Some people think, well, it protects bankruptcy, but it also has to do with just asset protection, just overall in case one is sued. And so again, consult with your attorney if you have any questions, but certainly we recommend. We sent out an email about 6 weeks ago, maybe 2 months ago, talking about homesteading, and we recommend everybody do that. So you don't have to have a trust to file a homestead. You can file it individually, and we do recommend that you file a homestead on every property you own. Some people set up an LLC for every property. Certainly, if it's an income property, we have people that what they're doing is they like to buy condos for kids, and right around college towns. So when that child goes to college, they can live in that condo. They can rent out the rooms, so it's an income producer, and the parents are getting the tax write-offs. And what happens is when the child graduates from college, they sell the condo, and then whatever assets, whatever appreciation, they can gift to the child, and so that's something totally different. And so there's all kinds of cool ways to work one's estate planning. We're going to cover something called the Augusta Rule, and this is really neat, and how one can employ the kids and how you can pay them and use it as a tax write-off. You have to have a business, and the Augusta Rule was named for the Augusta, Georgia, and the Masters. A lot of people were renting their home out. And there's all kinds of things you can do, but we're going to be covering that also at some point in the future, because I think it's not just that we're real estate agents. It's we want to be part of the comprehensive financial picture, so to speak. I've been a Series 24 securities principal. So as a stockbroker, stocks, bonds, options, mutual funds, currencies, any commodities as it dealt with from the stock side. I never wanted to deal with the Chicago Board of Trade, all those things. So no commodities when it comes to that. But I was the guy who we owned the firm. I had two partners, but I was the guy who you would come to if you wanted a trade approved. And certainly at the end of the day, I looked over all the trades. Unfortunately, some we would eat. We got stuck in some trades that the client decided I didn't like this. It wasn't going my way, and it's called DK the trade. And so it could be pricey. But as a securities principle, had to look over everything, approve. Certainly, if you were submitting an agreement to trade options, I might even call you and try to find out what your risk for your appetite for risk tolerance, capacity. Do you have the funds? Are you able to make sophisticated decisions for yourself? And I'm not, I certainly don't mean to be condescending, but there's a difference if you're trading options and you go naked options. You can write options, you can have covered options, or you can just go and willy-nilly commit pretty much your entire financial asset, so to speak, to something. You hear about them with currencies, commodities. We've seen it with some crypto, and you have leverage. So there's all kinds of things that come into play. But let me come back to what I was saying. We'd love to be a part of that. I think that one of the things that we as real estate agents, I think that a lot of people don't see us as being a consultant and a part of that strategic team. And we love when we talk to CPAs or CFAs or chartered financial analysts or CHFCs or CLUs, whatever it is. We speak the language, and we think it's important. We believe it's very important to include, because for many people, this is their biggest asset. And why wouldn't you want us at the table? And it doesn't, we don't charge when we meet with, whether we have a conversation with the attorney or the accountant. We don't charge for our time. We have been paid for our time, which we appreciated, but that's not something that we do. So I think that one of the things that I would suggest, if nothing you take out this evening, is find a good real estate agent and include them in your plans for your estate when it comes to estate planning and portfolio and things like that. One of the things that we do, we love recommending people talk to their financial advisors and find out, hey, is not just is this a good investment, but also, does it make sense? Should I go 15% down or 25% down? Because that might dramatically change the way that you purchase a property as far as down payment, because you might need more write-off, so you might go less down payment, or you're maxed out, and so you might want to have a little more cash flow by putting more down. So there's all kinds of things that come into this, and I really think that a lot of people just don't think of us as having financial acumen to bring value in that sphere, and so highly recommend that you think of us. Let me switch subjects for a moment and talk about something here in Southern California. I did the honor and pleasure of taking our two kids, to Jet Propulsion Lab in La Cañada, Flint Ridge. It's Jet Propulsion Lab. It's also a NASA facility. It was really cool because we got to go on the it's a federal installation. So the kids saw that you as soon as you go on, everything changed. Security was heightened. There's a lot more checking of who we were. We had to go in, register. You had badges, and it was really neat. And you could only go certain locations. It was cool. The reason I'm talking about this is because we make videos for all things Southern California. So if you ever get a chance, Jet Propulsion Lab, La Cañada, Flint Ridge, over by Pasadena. It's an amazing place. The land mass is bigger. The size is bigger than Disneyland. And we just went to Disneyland, and that was big, 22,000 steps. But the Jet Propulsion Lab is where they work on things like satellites, rovers, the rovers that are up right now on Mars. So we got to see we got to see the sister to the one that's up right now on Mars, as it's drilling, and it's collecting samples of rocks and core samples, and it was really cool. It's taking a lot of video, a lot of pictures, but we saw what they do, and we talked to the woman who's responsible, for example, for the testing. They have this test bed. It was called Mars test bed, I think they called it, and it had a lot of rocks, and you had some big rocks and small rocks, and it had all kinds of inclines. You had some gentle slope, you had some that were steeper, you had some that were solid, you had some that were sand, you had some that were perhaps a bit slanted, if you were. And it was really cool because as we look up at Mars, and as we watch videos on YouTube, we can say, hey, we talked to the woman who, the team who's responsible for that. And it was really cool. So they test things in her department, and then they give over to the team that then writes the code and sends out the instructions for what the Mars rover should do. I also talked to a gentleman who was responsible for one of the drill bits, and that was neat too, because they're, when you're billions of miles away and you want to change a drill bit, how do you do it? And what's the material? So it was really cool. And so that's a Jet Propulsion Lab. We got to go into a room. It's called the Center of the Universe, and there they're tracking all that's going on with various satellites and rovers, and it was super cool. We also learned that the rover that's up on Mars, that it's drilling and it's collecting samples, but it needs to get them back to Earth, and there's no mechanism in place right now. So what they're going to do in the next 3 years, they're going to launch a recovery vehicle, and now they're trying to figure out, how do you get that vehicle to Mars? How do you bring the samples in? They had these tubes. It was really cool. They weren't big tubes, smallish tubes. How do you bring them over and then transport them? How do you transport them back to Earth? So how do you lift off? What about the gravitational pull of the gravity? What about the atmosphere? How thick? And it was really cool. They're trying to figure all that stuff out, and they had this helicopter that flies, and they were saying that the gravity is 1/3 of Earth, so the rotors had to be a lot longer than traditional. And basically, it was just a mini helicopter. I mean, it wasn't very big. It was almost like a drone, but it had these big rotors. But now that they can do it, they're going to send more up. But the question is, how do you then? How can you fly higher, farther? But the biggest question was, how do you get those rocks off Mars? So they're going to actually send up another rover, another rocket up there. And so they don't do the rockets there. I thought Jet Propulsion Lab, but no. And they work with various companies, even SpaceX, Elon Musk's company, on actually delivering the payload, so to speak, or getting it into outer space. It was cool. Then we went by something, and it was EDL, entry, something landing, entry. I forgot the D. Shoot. Descent, entry, descent, landing. And it was a tower, and it was just seemed like kind of a bunch of kids playing, in a sense. I mean, they play with this stuff, and it was really cool, because here's this tower, and they take things and they drop them, and because they have to figure out what materials. They figure out, again, they have to account for the difference in gravity and the density of the atmosphere. But they had this big tower, and they would drop things. They would drop different weights, of course, different speeds, different materials, and then they take that information. It takes them years to figure this out, and then they're going to be able to use that in the next 3 years when they send a recovery vehicle up to get the rocks back to Earth. It's really cool, and again, it's a really big installation. That's Jet Propulsion Lab, La Cañada, Flint Ridge, and it's a NASA facility. So I had used to have season tickets to UCLA football. I'm not an alum. One of my friends is, but we used to go to a lot of football games. So I've been by the area, just have never been to JPL, and it was certainly an honor. And so if anyone from JPL or NASA ever watches these videos, first of all, think of us when you buy and sell. But I thank you for what you do. And when we say it's not rocket science, it is rocket science out there. So it was very cool, and they had some great giveaways that we took away. Um, so again, thank you. And again, I want to do things all things Southern California. So definitely, JPL NASA is up there. They were doing, I think, a partnership with Caltech. So and that's cool. Our son likes. He's big on the technology. He was thinking MIT. He's also thinking the Ivies, and we'll see where he goes. Our daughter is in Civil Air Patrol. She's thinking Air Force. Go maybe even go to the Air Force Academy. She wants to be a pilot. So um, God bless both of them. And, but let me come back. Let me wrap this up. Owning a home and who you deal with really matters, and how you own the home really matters. We deal with trusts all the times. Probate's different. We deal with trust. I've dealt with guardian ad litems, which are awards at the state. We've dealt with, I've interfaced with attorneys, accountants. I've interfaced with financial advisors, of course, insurance agents. We just referred one of our clients, in fact, two of our clients out for insurance. And these were people that one of them, they were jacking the rate up dramatically. And so one of them found coverage, and the other they're finalizing, I think, the coverage. But we have a full team of people that we can bring to bear. So whether it's attorneys, accountants, whether it's general contractors, builders, developers, structural engineers, foundation, we have them all. We've been very blessed to really build out our we have a very broad range of skill set. And I think that's very important. I kind of go back to when I was a stockbroker in the Series 24. So with stocks, bonds, mutual funds, options, and the currencies, commodities as it related to stocks, more so, not CBOT and those types of things, not wheats. And I didn't trade wheats and grains and things like that. But I always felt it was important to know about them. Not necessarily that I had to trade them, but I need to know about them. But in real estate, certainly. And we have hands-on experience and personal experience in buying and selling. But there's a lot of different ways that you can own hold title to a home. Consult with your trusted advisors. Let us know if you need any of those. We have people, if you want to do a quit claim deed, we can refer you to a title rep, and we can help. Anything to do there. We have again just a full range of people. So appreciate you joining us. And whether you're looking to make a move next 5 days, 50 days, further out, give us a call, shoot us a text, send us an email. We'd love to help you make a smooth move to Southern California, in Orange County, Riverside County, San Bernardino County, Los Angeles County, San Diego County. So we've sold in all of them. And if you're looking to sell, think of us. We do a great job. We're good people. So appreciate you joining us. Have a wonderful weekend.